All right, last session of the day, you made it. Yeah? All right, I'm gonna do y'all solid. I've cut this down just a little bit so we can chill out. Maybe y'all can hit the pool a little bit. Have y'all been to the pool here yet? I kind of like it because it's not this big crowded party pool. We went yesterday, so I enjoyed spending time with some of you out there. My name is Amber Anderson, and I am going to be talking with you today about reducing your tone and tension in written word. I feel very passionate about this topic. Let me get my bearings here. I feel passionate about this topic. I am considered a wordsmith superpower. Wordsmithing is my superpower. I like to write, and I am an Enneagram 8 with a 7 wing. An Enneagram 8 means that I don't take no for an answer. I am a bull in a china cabinet. I'm going to get things done, right? But that can be really abrasive. But my 7 kind of brings that down a little bit. It gives me my empathy and my ability to round things out, my spontaneity and ability to create emotional connection. So it's a great combination for written word. I have 13 years of experience in the event industry, mostly as a wedding planner. So who in here is a wedding planner? Okay, we got a couple. So this applies to everybody, whether you're in the event industry or not. But I am also a wife and a mom, and I will tell you, in my house right now with the 7-year-old that I have, we're practicing tone and tension quite a bit right now. So I've got some experience with this. Wordsmithing, what is that? What do we even mean by that? Wordsmithing is moving your words around within your sentences to maintain the message, right? But to reduce and make it well-rounded, okay? So we want to improve the clarity, we want to improve the style of the message, but still deliver the no or the I don't know about that kind of message, right? The message that they don't want to receive, we're going to soften that blow, but still be clear and firm and have our boundaries. We're not going to lose that. This process really empowers our clients, okay? It's not necessarily about them being a problem, okay? It's about the fact that there is a problem, and we want to solve that problem, but we want to bring them into the solution without making them feel attacked or making them feel, like I said, that they are the problem. Because when they feel like the problem, they're just going to put up a guard, right? There's a wall, there's tension, it's harder to break through. So if we can round out our messages, they feel more inclined to come and join the conversation, and we can build trust and emotional connection that allows us to take the next step with them in our solution, okay? So we all want to sound human, right? And I think that's a big issue right now. In this world, this upside down world that we're all living in the last few years, we've kind of stopped, we don't know how to treat each other anymore. We're rude in person, we're rude over email, we're rude in the way we respond to Instagram comments, we're just a bunch of trolls, all of us. I don't care how nice you are, every single person in this room has responded to something tacky in a way that they don't feel good about. You don't feel good about it, you don't like it either, right? So we want to hold ourselves accountable to that and find ways to still deliver that message so that it's received, but in a way that is professional and kind. This is what helps us prevent, reduce, and disarm tension. And the whole idea here is that we want to prevent it in the first place. We want to make sure that we don't find ourselves in these tricky situations, right? But if we do, these tactics and these tools that I'll be teaching here in just a second are clutch to have in your pocket for reducing that, for reining it in, for making sure that your clients still hear you and still remember that you are the professional that they hired because they trusted and they liked for some reason at some point, okay? Because again, they very well may be the source of the issue. They may be the problem, but we're not going to say that to them, okay? So best of all, when I'm going to teach today, you're going to find that your clients are more likely to do what you ask them to do. They're going to meet their deadlines. They're going to fill out the forms and answer the questions. Don't you love this? When you send an email with 3 questions, it's not hard, people, 3 questions, right? And they respond with 1 answer. The other 2 just didn't exist. They don't even acknowledge them, okay? But when they like you and they trust you and they trust the process and they see that you care and that you're on it and you treat them with respect, they're more likely to do this stuff. They're more likely not only to meet their deadlines and demands, but to just engage the way that you need them to engage to get your job done, okay? So this is probably really small on your screen. I'm going to read it. I'm going to go through a few examples of real emails that have come into my inbox with, or in my Facebook group. I have a large Facebook group for wedding planners, and sometimes people will post scenarios and ask for help wordsmithing it, or say, hey, this is the email I think I'm going to send. What do y'all think, okay? So here are a couple examples we're going to work through. I'm going to show you the raw draft of what was proposed, and then I'll show you an alternative way to have worded it. So this first one says, let's look at the subject line first. The subject line, first, this is being sent to a client that has not met their deadline, right? The florist needs an answer. This bride did not meet the deadline, and the wedding planner is reaching out to the client to get the answer, okay? So it's to a tardy client. The subject is, please send floral approval ASAP. The email reads, I heard from the florist asking for your final approval again. I've reached out a few times and need you to please respond. I don't want to cause stress, but need to remind you that we have these deadlines for a reason. It's important to meet them so the day runs smoothly. Thanks, planner. This is 53 words, okay? So it's not very long. There's nothing wrong with this email. It's accurate. It's timely. It's not a novel. It's to the point. Like, this is what we need, and it explains why, okay? So there's nothing wrong with this email. But what if we were to try this, which actually has fewer words, 46 words? And I'll tell you, sometimes to get this down, it can take a little longer to reduce your word count. But if you reduce your word count, they're more likely to read it. So at this point, though, we have AI that we can plug our stuff into and be like, say this in fewer words, okay? So there's no reason this should take you too long. Okay, now our subject line says, time sensitive, final floral approval. The reason I like this better is because the first one, as it read, please send final approval ASAP, okay? Again, nothing wrong. It's communicating urgency, it's communicating the subject, but this next one also communicates urgency and communicates the subject without it being a demand. You see the difference, okay? Now it reads, hello client, I know you must be so busy. The florist has requested final approval by X time to ensure the best outcome. When I see barriers to a beautiful wedding day, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't encourage getting back on track. Is everything okay? Thanks, planner. Now for some of you, this is too personal, okay? You're in more corporate environments, and this is a little too soft, okay? But I would encourage, well, I'll share some examples in a minute that, like a shuttle driver, for example, that does do a lot of corporate, but then also has individuals that come in and they forget that. Tailor to your audience. Just because you're a corporate, if you are doing events, you're likely also interacting with individuals that are hiring you for something that's more personable in their lives. It's not for a corporate event. So you're gonna want to be able to have these skills so it doesn't come across rigid, okay? The reason I ask them at the end, is everything okay, is because oftentimes when they're off track like this, there's a real reason. And if you're in a planning situation where you have timelines and things like that, it's good to have a pulse on what's going on behind the scenes here. Why? Why is this a struggle? Why can it not get you to meet your deadlines without having to ask those specific questions? Because then those sentences use the word you. What's wrong with you? Why can't you meet your deadlines? And those kinds of things feel abrasive to people. So we want to just ask, is everything okay? That's a pretty simple sentence. And you don't even have to do that in email. That could be your next interaction with them. Hey, everything going okay? Is the timeline still working for you? Do we need to adjust anything? See where there's a difference there, and we can get them back on track. Okay, we'll do two more examples here. This one says, Katie, I have my own plan developed through my career of having performed more than 2,300 weddings. I try to say this nicely so as to not appear arrogant. I will not need your help or your assistance. Thanks, rude-ass officiant. Listen, this is a real email that a planner that I coached got and emailed me and said, how do I respond to this? And I was like, with the middle finger, but if you want my real answer, let's try. I coached her through it. But if I got the opportunity to coach the efficient, this is something I would share, okay? There's a much better way of responding. How about, hi, and thank you for the information, Kathy, because her name's Kathy, not Katie. Let's get our names right, okay? Positive and personal intro, correct name, okay? Now we're gonna keep moving. I have great news. The level of service they hired from us covers all of those details. I hope this helps remove some things from your plate. I've attached their contract to have on file, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Best, efficient, that can say no with tact. It's not that hard, people. Be nice. Look around to your right and left. Look at each other. These are the people you're emailing like little punks. Stop it. Stop it. These are your friends that you have partied with in Vegas and have made connections with and are real humans receiving these emails. Stop it. I'm serious. Like this Katie to Kathy, like this is real. Okay, so if you're doing that, you're being talked about on the internet. Okay, this is also informative without being abrasive. I have great news. Level of service is covered. We've got that. It closes the loop, but remains open-minded. It's saying, hey, here's the contract, without being like, here's the information you need to read, right? It's just, here's the contract to have on file. Happy to answer any questions. So we're open-minded there. Okay, this is our last example. This is also real. Came into our Facebook group wherein a shuttle driver responded to a wedding planner asking for some passenger vans. The shuttle coordinator responds like this. No intro, mind you. A passenger van does not accommodate 15 passengers. You will need 2 vans or a tour bus. Vans, ... Guessing all takes place in Asheville based on your vague information, question mark. That sentence does not even make sense. Please advise as how you would like to proceed. We will confirm availability at that juncture. Thanks, annoyed shuttle driver or coordinator. Okay, let's try this. Hi, and thank you for the information, because a greeting is also so hard. I'm happy to help. For this headcount, we will need to quote 2 vans. Can you clarify that we will be servicing only Asheville? As of right now, we are able to accommodate that if so. If they are interested, I'll double check availability once more and send over the paperwork. Talk soon. Okay, we got a greeting. We're informative without being abrasive by like, your information was so vague. Like, that's so rude. Maybe it was vague. It wasn't. I saw the original email. But even if it was, like, don't say that. Just respond and answer the questions. Clarifies without accusing, friendly, informing of next steps, right? Just because you're available now in sending this email doesn't mean you'll be available 3 days from now when they respond. So at that point, if they're still interested, you gotta double check, right? So like we're clarifying our process. And at the end, we're looking alive a little bit here, because like, they just don't look alive at all on their first email. So we want to bring some personality into it, okay? Y'all do not have to reinvent the wheel. I have so many email templates in my shop. Y'all are welcome to go grab those. This right here will, if you can see it, will take you, and I'll show you this QR code again at the end, will take you to a set of sample email templates. There's 5 in there that'll allow you to just kind of read and study a little bit more, whether they apply to what you're specifically doing or would need for your clients. Just read them and get an idea for like flow and how tone comes across in written word, okay? Okay, where do we start? Now I'm gonna give you, now that we have an idea of like what we're working with, let's talk about the tools and the skills that we need to write that in a nicer way, okay? Because this is not natural for everybody. It just isn't. The nicest people sometimes send emails and I'm like, if I had never met you, I'd have been like, whoa. The written stuff can catch people off guard. So even I just want to, excuse me, I just want to validate that. I just want to make sure that y'all understand I'm not coming at you. I know that this is not natural for everybody. But it can be done with practice. And like I said, reading those templates so you can go download. Okay, so where do we start? I want you to study other companies, okay? Study your competitors. Study companies that are like 10 times bigger than you. Go study Target. Go study the pet store down the street. How do they present themselves in their websites, in their blogs, newsletters, on social media? How do they respond to reviews? How do they respond to comments that, from their consumers? Oops. Yeah, read the consumer comments. How are the consumers engaging with this person, right? Because if they're engaging it with positive, upbeat, like, oh, this is so fun, I'm so excited you're doing this, or thanks for this or that, then you know that that company has clearly developed some sort of rapport with their audience, right? So we want to look at how they're doing that. Now, if people are constantly responding with negativity or asking a lot of questions, especially the same ones over and over, then we've identified a company with a muddy message, a negative message, one that's not clear. So we want to study that as well. We want to study both sides of that. Then, keeping a word journal is our next step. Keep a word journal of both the positive and the negative, okay? What are some words or phrases or responses that you are drawn to in the companies that you felt were positive or that you're trying to emulate in some sort of way, or your competitors, when you saw a post work really well for them, why did it work well? What were some words and phrases in those posts? How are the consumers responding to it? Same thing with the negative stuff. Write that stuff down. That way you have it filtered through your brain, you've given it some thought, you've got some things at your fingertips, and you're also aware of how some particular things sound on the flip side, right? Both positive and negative. Then we're going to identify where to use this language, okay? Because on your website, you might have more professional, straightforward language. That might be more of a fun place for you. I don't know. Maybe then on social media, that's where you have more of the personable, fun kind of content, right? Maybe it's consistent and the same throughout all of it. But you get to decide where you're going to have different kinds of language, different kinds of tone. Maybe on your FAQ, it's a little more like boundary-centric, right? But then on your TikTok, you're having fun and you're showing what you can do for your clients, and you're showing that it creates memories for people and things of that nature, right? So you can have different, I want you to have the same persona. I want you to be who you are, who your business is, and represent your brand consistently. But across different platforms, you might use language in a different way. Now, when it comes to the formula of how to write those responses that I showed you a little bit ago, it starts with validation, okay? I know you must be busy. May I ask this question to clarify this? Things like that, because then we're validating that, hey, you sent great information, I want to make sure I understand it. Or, you haven't responded for a reason, so I want to acknowledge that, like, you must be busy, right? So we're validating that something's going on without being accusatory or negative about it or making it about them so much as just this is the situation, right? So we're validating it, and then we're addressing it, and then we're validating again. When you can create that sandwich of a formula, people feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel cared for in a customer service sense. You can apply this to real life with your friends, your mom, whoever. It works really well. So the formula is validate, address, and validate again. Filler words are your new best friend. What I mean by filler words are, instead of just saying, that cake was so good, might you say, that cake was so good, right? Or instead of saying, here's what I found out, you can say, okay, here's what I found out. So it's a little more conversational. And again, some of you are going to be in more corporate, much more professional environments, and these filler words aren't necessarily what you're going to find in your emails. But maybe throw that into one of your 5 sentences to round it out, okay? You don't have to sound like, oh, that cake is so good, right? Like, you don't have to do that. Just be real and conversational. Another example, instead of saying, you have to go with the silver one, it's a perfect match, say, you have to go with the silver one, it's a perfect match. It just provides emphasis and excitement and like presence, that you're paying attention and that you're matching their level of excitement and their level of connection to the decisions that they're making and are excited about. Seriously, that was such a great idea, okay? See the filler word in there? Instead of just saying, that was a great idea, you're validating in there too. Seriously, that was a great idea. Here's some other examples. And say, basically, it comes down to this. Because when we start an email or we're trying to explain to someone like why they're wrong or what's really going on behind the scenes, and we say it comes down to this, that can feel abrasive. But if we say basically it comes down to this, it's a little bit softer, and it's a little bit like there's some things back here that are beyond anyone's control, like it's not your fault, but like here's the rundown, right? It just feels a little different, okay? I sent that file over, get it? So you're asking a question as opposed to just like, yeah, I sent it. You're the problem. Okay? Use filler words. They are your best friend. They work in rounding out your sentences in your emails, your responses to your reviews, your responses to consumer comments, all of it. Okay, another thing that we're going to pay attention to is structure of our emails, okay? So it's not just about our tone and our actual words. The structure and the format have a lot to do with preventing tension and reducing it, okay? So we're gonna respect their attention span. We're not gonna write novels. We're not gonna write big paragraphs and ask all of our questions. We're gonna use bullet points. We're gonna use headers. We're going to guide them in responding to us in an organized way as well, okay? When we do that, things get done. Things are efficient. They now have time to go do the other stuff that they need to do. You've got your answers. No one's frustrated. But if you're writing paragraphs, they're going to miss questions. They're not going to respond the way you need them to. And now everybody gets frustrated, and that's when we start digging into the nasty grams, right? So we want to try to avoid those by being efficient in the first place. Now, if you're wordy like me, you might want to try to use a program such as Outright. I have no connection with them at all. I just have found them and used them and think they're great. Okay, this is a Chrome extension that will follow you as you, or whatever you have open on your computer, an email, a blog, a Word document, whatever. And as you type, it'll make suggestions that help you like reduce your words or restructure a sentence wherein it makes more sense or is more well-rounded in a way that will be better received. So this can be a tool that can help you. There's a free version and there's an upgraded version. Okay, it also helps with grammar and things like that. And when you write more conversationally, your grammar switches. Okay, there's like 2023 conversation grammar, and then there's like what we learned in grade school. There's a difference, but that's okay. But these programs are going to help you with that. Another thing that you might want to try, you can download this app for your flight home. It's called Elevate app. And it's a brain exercise game sort of app, wherein it'll give you a sentence and it'll prompt you to then reduce or to remove, click on the words that don't belong or are unnecessary. Because a lot of times we'll say that we'll be repetitive in one sentence. This says remove unnecessary words that you don't need in sentences. When really all it has to say is remove unnecessary words in sentences. Okay, so it's a game you can play and start exercising your brain to get used to that sort of stuff and just seeing it and realizing the repetitiveness. Another thing here is when it comes to emotions, I think those are best for conversations over the phone, which none of us do, let's be honest. So Loom, are y'all familiar with Loom? Try out Loom, loom.com. This can also be an extension that you can put onto your computer. And when you have something tough to say or share or a message, you know, that you need to start out with like, hey, I know this isn't the news you wanted, but here it is. You know, like, I know this isn't the outcome we all wanted, but try a video, okay? Keep them really short. Make sure you're smiling a lot, depending on the situation, but have the right emotion, like emote in this thing, right? Okay, you might want to do this if you're going to send something that you don't want screenshot or you don't want copy and pasted and blasted all over the internet. And guess what? They're still going to share it if they're those kinds of people, but what I know about Loom is that the creator can see who sees the video. So I'm not gonna share videos anyway, but if I were, I would know that creator is going to see that someone else opened it other than who was supposed to, and now I'm the problem, right? So this is a way of just like kind of controlling and mitigating a little bit. Not only in the message going viral, but also just the emotional, we're reducing the risk for it coming across poorly in an email and people making assumptions. Interpretations can get us in trouble, right? So when a situation would maybe call for a phone call, but it seems a little alarming to just pick up the phone and call them, try a video. All right, that's gonna wrap us up for today. I told you I'd keep it short, get y'all out of here. This is the same QR code, so if it didn't work a minute ago, or if you need to walk up here and get it a little bit closer, you can do that. But this will take you to a set of free email templates where you can see a few more examples. But you're more than welcome to DM me if you have any other questions. Actually, I'll leave you with one last thing. There are some words that I feel like we use that could use some extinction. And I used one of them a minute ago. I used the example of you. When you say, you haven't filled this out, as opposed to, this hasn't been filled out. Big difference, right? Or when we say, need this, or in my experience. That sounds so arrogant. That was an example in there. Things like that. Try to avoid those kinds of words, or ASAP. Okay. So, but definitely, if nothing else, if you take anything away from this, stop using the word you. Make it, we need to get this filled out. We need to do this. This needs to get done. And remember, it's not about them being the problem. It's about that there is a problem. All right? Y'all have a good one. Safe travels home. Thanks for joining us today.